Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to another explainer. Today, we're taking some pretty complex ideas and breaking them down into clear, visual takeaways. We're exploring a truly fascinating intersection, the exact meeting point between one of the most popular personality frameworks out there, the Enneagram, and the profound, ancient cosmic philosophy of astrology. So if you've ever found yourself wondering how the deep structures of your own psyche might actually mirror the structure of the universe itself, well, you're definitely in the right place. But first, we have to ask the ultimate skeptic's question, right? Can a giant rock floating millions of miles away in our solar system actually make someone a detail-oriented perfectionist or an emotional helper? This question sits right at the center of the tension between modern skepticism and ancient wisdom. To really understand how these systems connect, we've got to look way past those daily horoscope columns and dig into the deep, archetypal architecture of reality itself. So here is the roadmap for today. We're going to start with how the Enneagram meets astrology. Then we'll map out the cosmic personality. Next, we'll tackle the problem of causality, followed by looking at the universe as a clock. And finally, we'll decode the archetypes of the soul. Let's start with section 1, the Enneagram meets astrology. So you might already know that the Enneagram outlines 9 distinct personality types. But when we lay those over astrological rulers, the correlations become incredibly specific. Take the type 1, for instance, the reformer or perfectionist. This type is highly detail-oriented, extremely logical, and really values order. Well, it turns out that perfectly aligns with the analytical nature of Mercury and the service-oriented sign of Virgo. Then look at the type 2, the helper. This personality thrives on literally dropping everything to help others in need. And that maps beautifully to the moon and Cancer, which represent the emotional, maternal, and nurturing principles of our universe. Moving down the list, we see these thematic overlaps just continue to hold up. The type 5 investigator, known for being detached, innovative, and constantly needing intellectual stimulation, is ruled by Uranus and Aquarius. And check out the type 8 challenger. These are the folks who are in control, full of energetic force, and deeply protective. That type aligns exactly with the combative, powerful energies of Pluto, Mars, and Scorpio. It's not just some loose, random connection. It's a highly specific thematic mirror. Which brings us to section 2, mapping the cosmic personality. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the Enneagram circle neatly organizes our core emotional drivers. You can see the entire spectrum of human motivation laid out geometrically here, all the way from the type 9 adaptive peacemaker at the top to the type 3 competitive achiever on the right. It's this beautifully closed system of human psychology. But watch what happens when we bring the planets into this exact same geometric space. If you look at the sequence, a stunning astronomical pattern emerges. If you count backwards on the Enneagram wheel, starting from type 1, which corresponds to Mercury, to type 9, corresponding to Venus, over to type 8 for Mars, and so on, these types line up exactly with the sequence of the planets as you move outward from the sun. No way, right? It's a flawless interaction between the numbers, the psychological types, and the literal orbital positions of our solar system. On to section 3, the problem of causality. Now, as rational thinkers, our immediate instinct is to ask how this works mechanically. A lot of our skepticism comes from our reliance on Newtonian linear causality. Because, let's be real, unless you think Jupiter is literally shooting cosmic lasers at your brain to make you a type 8, we need a different framework to understand this. As cultural historian Richard Turnus points out in the source material, we have to transcend this idea of a billiard ball universe. Instead, we need to look toward archetypal synchronicity, which is a universe based on meaning, entanglement, and reflection rather than simple physical force. Let's look at section 4, the universe as a clock. To really grasp this paradigm shift, Tarnas uses a brilliant metaphor. He says, just because the clock says that it is now 2:53 p.m. is not causing it to be 2:53 p.m. It is indicating, it is reflecting that reality. So the crucial point is, the planets aren't causing your personality traits any more than the hands on your wall clock are causing time to pass. They are simply indicative. They're a reflection of a larger reality that's occurring simultaneously. Building on that idea, Tarnas explains that the movements of the planets with respect to the Earth seem to reflect the moving archetypal dynamics of the cosmos itself, what the ancients used to call the anima mundi, or the world soul. Essentially, the planets are like massive, moving hands on a cosmic clock, showing us the underlying structural dynamics of time and meaning at any given moment.
Finally, Section 5, Archetypes of the Soul.
So if the planets are just the hands on the clock, what exactly are they pointing to? Well, the answer lies in archetypes. In the Platonic sense, an archetype is a cosmic and metaphysical principle of reality itself. In the Jungian sense, it's a basic formal principle of the human psyche. Integrating those two ideas, contemporary astrology suggests that these universal principles exist both deeply within us and independently of us. They are, quite simply, the essential structural forms of human experience. And this brilliantly illustrates why the Enneagram matches up so perfectly. Just look at these planetary archetypes. Uranus is the universal principle of rebellion, sudden change, and intellectual brilliance. Neptune represents the transcendent, the spiritual, and the imaginative. Pluto is raw elemental power and intensity. If you know the Enneagram, you immediately recognize these as the precise foundational blueprints of the Type 5 investigator, the Type 4 individualist, and the Type 8 challenger. Let's zoom in on Uranus for just a second as an example. Empirically, astrologers have long associated Uranus with the Promethean myth. Prometheus, if you remember, was the titan who rebelled against the gods to steal fire and liberate humanity. He represents the creative spark, cultural breakthrough, and defiance of authority. When you realize that the Type 5 Enneagram personality is fundamentally driven by a need for intellectual brilliance, detachment, and an urge to transcend limitations through knowledge, you see that the Type 5 is simply the human psychological manifestation of the Uranus archetype. It's like a giant puzzle coming perfectly together. But here's why all of this actually matters for you and me. To the extent that we remain unconscious of these potent forces, we're basically pawns, just acting on unconscious motivations. We become victims to our Enneagram types. But as the source material highlights, recognizing these archetypes brings a much greater self-awareness. It allows us to step out of blind action. We can actually become co-creative participants with these forces, helping to refine and unfold our own intrinsic potential. Let's move to and see how this builds to our ultimate takeaway. As above, so below. This ancient Hermetic axiom perfectly summarizes the modern synthesis of these systems. We do not live in a dead, strictly mechanistic universe. We live in an intelligently coherent, fully animate cosmos where mind and matter are pervasively related. The macrocosm of the stars and the microcosm of your personality are breathing together, completely integrated into one intelligible whole. Which leaves us with this final thought. If these psychological frameworks and planetary movements aren't just random traits, but instead form a giant cosmic mirror reflecting the deepest structures of reality, what is your specific personality trying to show you? It's a massive question for sure, but having the map is the first step. Keep exploring, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer. We have built our world on a high-stakes assumption that our industrial momentum is as unsinkable as the steel hulls we once set into the Atlantic. But the elephant in the room has grown too large to ignore, moving out of our private shadows and into the center of our lives. This is the meta-crisis, the tipping point where the stories of endless growth collide with the physical limits of our planet. The Lifeboat mini-course is your immediate, structured transition, a free 5-day journey delivered to your inbox to transform global anxiety into local resilience. Day 1 begins with an audit of the invisible, the energy and water systems you rely on every hour, yet rarely ever see. Day 2 forces a change in your geographical lens, challenging you to locate your true home within your watershed and local bioregion. You won't navigate this terrain alone. You will receive daily study guides and synthesized patterns designed to cut through the noise and reveal the architecture of change. Day 3 asks you to practice active hope in a world facing ecological overshoot. Day 4 introduces the demanding standard of revolutionary love. By tracing the water back to your neighbor's tap, you move beyond the narrow walls of self-help and into the expansive, interconnected practice of systems health. The climax arrives on Day 5 with the introduction of a specific framework for your future, the 9x21 harvest. Who is your mutual guiding spirit in this transition, and which 9 things will you choose to do? Stop waiting for the headlines to crush you. Sign up for the Lifeboat mini-course now. Access your Day 1 materials immediately and join the community hub where the next story of our world is already being written. You can remain tied to the illusion of a collapsing global credit card, or take this course to begin building real systems health today. The Earth is tired of the lie. It is time to dance with the truth.